From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Oh, Matt, I feel like you and I are MCs because we're introducing a rock star. We have the CEO and founder of Wabbi, Brittany Greenfield. Oh, she's a bit of an overachiever. She was recognized by Boston Business Journal as 40 under 40 and won a top woman in cyber by both Cybersecurity Excellence and Cyber Defense Magazine's annual Global InfoSec Awards. We are not worthy, Brittany. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks, guys, for having me and being my PR team. I'll have to take you out on the road with me.
We're going to give you the mic, but first, help us clarify two questions.
Yeah.
This is like our glossary. One, what does Wabbi mean? Did you lose a game of Scrabble?
No.
And two, for our small business audience and myself, what is enterprise integrating security into the software development lifecycle?
So I'll start.
You have half hour to answer those two questions.
Hopefully I can do it faster than that. So Wabbi comes from this Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, which is about accepting imperfections in the things that we create. And especially since, we've got a bunch of founders here across all different industries, the name actually came from this poster right behind me, which I bought when I was starting the company, because I said, as a founder, I need to have a little more wabi-sabi in my life. And I need to accept the fact that this founding journey is inherently imperfect. But that then turned into Wabbi, the company, because what we actually do is help security teams accept the fact that software is imperfect. And so if you want to build something and have it be secure, you can't just build taller walls and deeper moats. And so to answer the second part of your question, what we do is very similar to building a house or any kind of building. There's a set of checks and balances that have to be applied when you're building a building to make sure it's safe, right? You don't just stand up a building and say, move in and we'll check it out. We'll check it out later, but trust me, we're good, right? The same happens in software. And those rules and regulations vary both by if it's a new build or an old build or residential, commercial, Boston, Orlando, New York, right? All different rules. And so that gets very granular and very, very tough for companies to execute. We manage that. And sometimes those rules are, hey, Lou, can you toss down a level and just make sure it's okay before we toss the carpet down because we don't want somebody to trip? Other times it's let us take a full stop and wait for the inspector to come check the wiring because one, that's a really, really big safety hazard if the wiring's bad. Two, it's also very expensive to fix if we put up drywall and it hasn't been done right. So it's worth taking the time to stop. So I think, one of the things that I love about the Wabbi ethos, the wabi-sabi ethos, and how that's baked into our name is it's all very human emotions that we're dealing with and human things. Sometimes it's worth slowing down so that we can get more productivity on the end. So that's where that all came from.
I got to say, I think this is the most lovely sentiment ever expressed on the Liquid Lunch Project.
Oh, thank you.
The fact that we should embrace our imperfections, and there's something perfect about being imperfect, because so many founders are always chasing their tail. This has to be better. The walls have to be higher. The grass has to be greener. But maybe it's good the way it is and just spend more time interacting with your clients.
Hit the nail on the head of what I always like to preach. And by the way, this is do as I say, not as I do. But this is, starting a business is where overachievers go to fail 99% of the time, right? So if we're going to keep our sanity, we have to accept the fact that this journey is inherently imperfect. And sometimes you just got to roll with the punches. And the best way to move forward is to spend time with your customers, to actually be out there in the field versus locking yourself in a room speculating about what they might do or want. Oh, Lou, you're muted.
Lou.
So a couple of years back, your resume was A+. You were a rock star. You're a bit of an overachiever. Had you sent that resume to the top tech firms, you would have gotten an interview. So what made you go the founder route rather than go work for Jensen or Mark or Elon or all those buddies?
Because I'm a masochist. I just didn't know it at the time.
And you finally figured out the purpose of the liquid lunch. We're all revealing that we're all masochists.
Exactly. There's a reason that we have to have liquid lunches. And you know, but we're seriously, some of it was a little bit of what I had done for companies beforehand. I'm a technical person, but I know better than to write code. So it actually never occurred to me that I'd be starting a business. Because in our industry, everybody's like, there's the hoodie wearing guy living in his parents' basement that goes and writes something up. That's actually not where you get the most successful founders across any industry. But still, I felt I succumbed to that stereotype. And so I've been doing that for other companies. And, you know, I think the short version is innovation tends to occur best outside of walls of big companies. And it's not enough to have a good idea. You have to have a good idea at the right time. And sure, I could have gone to any of the big guys and pitched this idea. And they might have said, yeah, why don't you go sit in that corner and work on it? Would I have gotten anywhere with it? No. So sometimes you have to be willing to go out on a limb for something you believe in. And that you have market proof there's a demand for. And because that's how you're actually going to drive change. My desire in being a founder was to change the status quo and how people did this thing. Because it was really, really broken. It still is.
So let me ask you one question. We started the conversation by saying that you are transforming how enterprise is integrating. Can you give us a couple of real examples on what the world was like pre-Wabbi and now post-Wabbi, please?
Yeah, so I don't mean to scare people, but everybody always goes, what's your top cybersecurity tip? And I go, take your money out of the banks and put it in your mattress, right? And the short version is I talked about the house analogy. What we were doing with moving people into the house, which is our data, was in fact standing up a building and moving people into it and saying, we'll check it later. What happens when you say, we'll check it later? Never happens, becomes very expensive to fix, and it's never quite right, right? And unfortunately, using the building analogy, we've seen horrible examples of what happens when somebody does shoddy workmanship. And yeah, just because it has 4 walls and a floor and a foundation, right, doesn't mean it's safe. And that's what was happening in the world before Wabbi. So this has really been transformational, right? It's not an incremental improvement. And what happens now is, you know, again, leaning on, it's not perfect, right? Your house isn't perfect. I live in a 1800s brownstone in Boston. And when I did my inspection, the guy was like, well, the foundation is crumbling. I was like, what? And he goes, it's okay. I mean, he's 120 years old. It's fine. It's totally
Wabbi, man. Wabbi. Embrace the imperfections.
And all we can do is say, we are doing the best to secure this within our risk management and within our risk tolerance. And we can't, we've got this notion of imperfection, and, you know, where perfection is the enemy of progress. And so now with Wabbi, the organizations we work with are, they can make those trade-offs with educated decision-making, right? So they're, yeah.
So what type of organizations are you working with? Are you working with Fortune 500 companies? Yeah. Are you working with middle market?
Market to Fortune 500. Not that this problem doesn't exist in the smaller companies, but it's just the way we tackle it is very different, because it's what I call in software development the over-the-wall problem. You start to hit a critical mass, and it's no longer like, hey, can I ship this? Or can I deliver this, right? Is this product good to go? You start to actually have all this nuance of compliance of, hey, is the feature even developed the right way, right? And it gets very, very granular on it. And so that's where you start to create what I call the DevSecOps hairball, where there's a ton of data floating around and no actionable information. And the whole thing is, how do we actually just create actionable information so people can make educated decisions? Again, imperfection. Like, how can we just make people feel empowered in this world of imperfection?
So just so I understand, so a Fortune 500 company or a middle market company will come to you and say, hey, we're developing software. Can you find the cracks in this, right? Before the cracks in the foundation spread.
Correct. Exactly. So so there are tools that go and find the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
What we do is we know what their policies are, and then we orchestrate them and say, this tool needs to be applied here, right? You need to use a level on the floor, and it's okay if Brittany just goes and does that. Or you actually need to have an inspector come in to check the foundation, because we need an expert on this, and that's the tool. And then we start to record it. So it doesn't need to be a brand new application. So we help them find it that way. And then I'm sure everybody here, because it was front page news, remembers the Equifax breach, Log4j, right, which shut down MTA, right? People couldn't get paid because of that. And so these are some of the things that are becoming more common conversation. So when that does happen, new things have to happen. And so we can then help them say, here's where you need to go take action, right? Okay, mobilize build a solid foundation, right? The best way, I'm going to screw up the quote, but Sun Tzu, strategy without tactics. The quickest route to defeat is strategy without tactics, and tactics without strategy. So we allow them to have both pieces of that, and then we execute for that when something does happen as well.
So you find the problem and you solve the problem.
Correct. And what I'm going to say is we enable people to do that, right? Because at the end of the day, companies are making trade-offs about everything. And if they only ever tried to have very secure software, we'd all still be on an IBM green screen, right? Flip side is, what's the right balance and tolerance, and we help them. We again get them to that decision-making point. But at the end of the day, this is where technology is so powerful. This is why, everybody's excited about AI. It's not about replacing jobs. It's allowing humans to do what they do better, which is problem solve. And that's, I can talk about all the technology I want. At the end of the day, we are enabling teams to do their jobs better, period, whether it's a development team or a security team.
So, Brittany, what would be your advice to a small to medium-sized business owner? And we'll continue quoting the Asian proverbs, right? So to prevent killing a mosquito with a cannon, what would you implement in a typical small business? Let's say a $20 million enterprise. Obviously, they're not as technologically savvy as a NetSuite or an OpenAir or a Kronos or a Cisco, but they have real needs and real fears.
And 100%, right? This is what I love about where cybersecurity is today. Everybody is talking about it because everybody has realized it doesn't matter what size I am, I can be a target. And quite frankly, the majority of cyber attacks go against those small and medium enterprises because they know that their defenses are down. But the number one thing I would tell them is something everybody has is common sense. And I'm not being glib about this, but we've all gotten to the text, right? Hey, your account's been hacked at insert bank here. Can you reach out to this number? Or you've got a USPS package for pickup. You're like, what? Do I have a USPS package? They're hoping to catch you in this moment of adrenaline where you doubt yourself. So if anything like that happens, take a deep breath. And that's something that businesses can implement. Security training. Nobody wants to do security training, but there are very simple tools where you can automate phishing emails. Phishing emails are where they're trying to get you to click a link, and it's the American Red Cross, and there's been a hurricane someplace, please donate, right? They're using that for entry. So that's
I got one yesterday from Geek Squad. It said you're about to renew. Click here if you don't want to renew. I'm like, Abe, do we still have Geek Squad? What is this?
help us reconcile those two realities.
Mm-hmm.
The idiots that are sending out those spammy emails can't be the same idiots that are shutting down Experian. Like, how's this working?
So it depends. So sometimes, look, at the end of the day, the adversaries are just modern crooks, right? And they just happen to be able to do it same way we can do everything faster and reach more people in the good side of things, and in our daily lives. They happen to be able to spam you with this stuff and whatnot. So some of those folks are just looking for low-hanging fruit, and I want the $100 gift card. I want the whatever it is. Those emails, though, for businesses, one of the reasons you've got to train your team on this, and then you also get spear phishing, right? All of our lives are very public now where, hey, you've just gone and started a new job, and suddenly your CEO is asking you to do a data dump of everybody's social security number and what their income is, and think about it, right? And so that's another class. And then the third class is they're actually trying to use somebody in your organization to click through that email to then access all your other systems. So a company we were working with recently, their vendor just had this happen. It happened on both sides where somebody clicked through an email, gave them email access to be able to appropriately spoof their emails. And they sent out an invoice, which the vendor was the customer was expecting, and want to know where that $186,000 went? Into the crook's pocket. So when you talk about Experian and examples, that email can lead to, it may seem like, oh shit, I clicked on the Geek Squad link and clearly it's fraudulent. That may actually be somebody using, it's called a man-in-the-middle attack, using you to actually access systems. That's typically, if everybody remembers that Sony hack,
Yes.
right, where they leaked it, that was one of the ways that they did it, because somebody clicked on a link, nothing really happened, nobody paid attention. And what you just did was leave the back door open for the crook to come and live in your house. It's like those same emails are like Ocean's 11. I'm guessing most people have seen that. Ocean's 11.
Every night at 10 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Classic. And what they do is they set off the alarm in the garage when they're breaking in the front door. And they're monitoring for months. I don't have a current stat on it, but often some of these big attacks, they've been sitting in there for 6 to 9 months, watching, waiting for the right time. And that email, that person entering through that email, that was how they got in, and it seemed innocuous at the time.
Now, Brittany, let me ask you, that gentleman that executed that 9-month scam, if he was rehabilitated and said, you know, Brittany, I've seen the error in my ways. I want to work at Wabbi. I'm a good boy now. I mean, I would imagine he'd probably be your star hire for the year.
The really interesting thing about the industry,
minus his moral turpitude.
Right, it is. And so, the interesting thing about the industry is you have white hat and black hat on that. And black hat are the people that have that moral turpitude. And the white hat ones are the ones that could do that and choose not to. And I will always take the white hat one because they want to be on the side of good. The reality, though, is there's a lot of money to be made. You have to remember that cybercrime, if it was a country, which it kind of is, it would be the 3rd largest economy in the world by GDP.
No way.
4th largest. Yep.
There's that much cybercrime?
Yeah. And the other thing that I think, and this is important for small and medium business owners to really know, right? So back to some of the advice, run these exercises. That's like what happens when I do get breached, pay for the cyber insurance, because when you get breached, they will help you. Typically, if you get a good cyber insurer, they will help you walk through this. But what happens if you take away the fact that this is, I hate to say it, kind of sexy, right? I've gotten hacked, whatever, or it is a business. And what will happen is, okay, we've locked your computer. You must transfer us $500,000 in crypto, blah, blah, blah. You're talking to a low-level person. It's a negotiation. And I was talking with a small law firm that went through this about a year ago. And first of all, they did, one of these table exercises, what happens when we get breached, and everybody said, F them, don't pay the money. You get breached, it's a different conversation, right? Because there's a real opportunity cost to our business being down and us not being able to do it. And so they went back, and the advice they got was negotiate. And they said, okay, we're not willing to pay 500, but we'll pay 300. And the guy goes, let me talk to my manager. And that is it. And it is the visuals that you may have of these bot farms and everything that you've seen in movies of people at a desk, at a computer. They look just like you and me showing up to work. They just happen to be doing work in a slightly illegal way. Right? It's no longer the pickpocket.
Once you negotiate with them, and let's say you pay them some sort of ransom, what assurance do you have that this won't occur again?
You don't. And this is why make sure, right? For small and medium businesses, one of the things you should absolutely look into are managed service providers. They allow you to get very cost-effective security solutions. So that's one of the ways you want to be preventative, regardless of what industry you're in, right? Everybody is a cyber crime target if you have a computer or any kind of device now. Just remember that. And so these managed service providers, you may hear them called MSPs or MSSPs. One, they're very cost effective and you don't have to have a security team internally. Two, they will actually, this is where you want to be proactive, because what they'll do is they make sure that you have backups in place, right? So maybe you lose a day of work or something, but you could kind of walk away. And often there is no guarantee. A lot of times,
redundancies can be put in place to prevent that from happening.
Correct. And it is worth the investment, if nothing else, knowing that you'll sleep better at night, right?
Because going back to your story about Sony, I remember vaguely, because it was a while ago, but I remember part of their cost benefit analysis was they wanted so much in ransom. Our nice pals at Sony said, are you nuts? That's crazy. But then when this continued for like a month, they said, well, we should have paid them.
Correct. And that's I always remember to tell people it's a decision tree, right? For anybody that's a stats geek, right? You remember doing decision trees and weighted cost and stuff. And this is actually just what I want to say was United Healthcare, same thing, right? They said we pay, rather they did the reverse of what Sony did. Said we're paying the ransom today because the cost of paying the ransom today is cheaper than what we're losing in a month. And I think maybe even in a week. So just pay it and let's go talk about it and be very open about it. So that's what United Healthcare just did with their breach. And so that's where you have to think about it. Okay, this is fine. We'll negotiate for 2 weeks, but by the time we negotiate for 2 weeks, maybe we should just pay that other $200,000.
Just so that everyone can follow along at home, we'll just call the Sony theory the Reagan theory. We do not pay cybersecurity terrorists. Right. And then we'll just call the United Healthcare theory the Obama theory. Don't worry, we'll just mail you a check, whatever you need, buddy.
Yeah, but you know what? It's one thing for those companies to do that, right? But I mean, everybody working from home now and just your average people, this happens to them every day. What can they do?
So that is the number one thing. So there's a couple of basics, right? Antivirus on your computer. I know it's annoying, right? I'm the first person to want to turn it off of my computer, but it's good. There's a reason that it is standard, right? It is that antivirus isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And those appropriate blockers. The second is make sure goes back to the common sense. If you get an email and you're not expecting it, right? Don't let fear drive you. Take a second, look at it. We just got one from an investor, and I looked at an investor emails. Hey, do you have 5 minutes? Right? It's either very good or very bad. Your adrenaline gets going. And I went, hold on 1 second. The 2 letters were swapped. And I went, and it's not typically the investor that I work with at that firm. And I went, hold on 1 second. And 2 letters are swapped, and this isn't the domain they email from, right? Because they have two names. And I went, this is spam. Reported it. Sure enough, within 12 hours, they had their internal response team on it. But that's the same for humans, right? Like I have gotten a text message from Wells Fargo saying your student loan payment is overdue. And I coincidentally had just finished paying mine off. And I'm going, oh my God, what's going on? But what I did, instead of responding to the text or calling the phone number, if you really get something urgent, go to the main website by yourself. Do not follow those links and type in and get the phone number from there or whatnot. And so that's what I did. And I go, and it happened to be a Sunday. And I call them and they go, we're closed on Sundays. And I'm like, okay, that was definitely fraudulent. And the number didn't match up, right? And that's why I said, like, take that moment. You're hearing one of the things people should be aware of now. Oh, it's a world called friendly fraud. I have a month ago had a conversation with multiple security professionals where they had all received similar calls. Your son's been in an accident, but he needs bail because he got into a fight, blah, blah, blah. Can you transfer it here? And, and fortunately, one of the guys was like, I would have been concerned, but my son was sitting in the room with me, right? But that's it. That's a very common scam going now. I know somebody, my own mother has gotten we're going to turn your power off. But you can only pay us in gift cards.
Yeah.
Right?
So that was my question. I was going to ask you that. What is up with the gift cards and how are they pulling the money off the gift cards?
Yeah. So what they do is a lot of times they use something, it's called, I think just a green card or something like that. And they're the loosest. It's great for drug transactions and anything else in the underworld. Please don't sue me, whoever owns that. And so like they don't care who's using it versus like a Visa gift card. But what they do is it depends on the operation of the type of gift card, but they pull it off really quickly and they sell it on a secondary market essentially, right? So they're not getting 100% of that value. There are plenty of black markets for trading this, and that's where they're getting it. I mean, and there's sites, legal sites too, right? I've certainly sold cards on like Gift Card Granny and whatnot, and I bought cards on that stuff. So I think that's where you're starting to get some of that. But they tend to ask for those more money-based ones, and they pull them off right away and toss it into a bank account and trade off. Like I said, remember, this is a business. So there's a whole world of tools designed for the bad guys, and they can go buy them just like you and I would go on Amazon and buy something, right? And so there are secondary marketplaces for all this kinds of transfer. Again, same thing criminals have been doing for millennia. Technology just enables them to do it at greater scale, greater breadth, and faster and cheaper, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Like I said, number one advice, go off grid. Move to a compound, start growing your own vegetables, making pottery, and stuff all your money in a mattress.
Hey, before you came on, I told Luigi I never want to hear the word software again. We're going back to pen and papers.
Yeah. People always, and I'm sure your audience can resonate with this. People go, so what's going to be your next thing, right? We know founders are always serial founders. What's your next thing going to be? And it's like, literally building pottery in a shed. I'm not even a good potter, but I never want to see technology again, right? We've gotten so tethered to all of this, and I love it. It means I can meet you guys and by proxy meet your audience. And
if the pottery has cracks in it, you just gotta love it because you made it. You're gonna embrace it.
It's gonna be beautiful. Oh my God, you've given me my studio that nobody will ever know exists because I'm not gonna put it on Google, but it'll be the imperfect pottery.
Matt, do you think it'd be all right if I asked Brittany to contact our wives and explain to them the concept of Wabbi?
I think we need to do that.
So, yeah, be careful. They might try sealing you up with some gold.
Hey, Brittany, thank you so much for being here. We learned a lot today, and I want to be respectful of your time. Can you tell the audience how they can find you and how they can reach out to you on socials or your website for Wabbi?
Absolutely. So you can always find me on LinkedIn. Just let me know, because as you can imagine, I get a lot of this spam that we were just talking about. Let me know you heard about me, heard me on Liquid Lunch. You can also find, if you're interested in learning more about Wabbi, I'm happy to carry on, whether you're a target customer or not. I'm always happy to preach the good word of cybersecurity. So don't hesitate to reach out. Wabbi's website is www.wabbisoft.com. And then my website is brittanygreenfield.com. And so you can get a hold of me through that too. So don't hesitate to reach out. I always love connecting with people afterwards, whether you're a founder on your own journey and you want to, share the nitty gritty stories that none of us ever talk about, or you have questions about cyber. I'm happy to be a guide for you on that. But guys, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.
Brittany, thank you so much. Last question before I let you run. Mac or PC?
I am a PC user.
Okay.
Even worse, I am a green bubble phone user.
Oh, yeah. We can't be friends.
My partner hates me and yells about it to everybody he can. And that I have to use Telegram, which is a more secure messaging app. Thank you very much. Because he doesn't like my green bubble showing up on his phone.
Brittany, thank you so much. Everybody, that's a wrap at the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.